Well, I hope everybody had a really great weekend. It's been a very busy Monday for sure. So hopefully it didn't get the best of you. I just literally, I did a little bit of yoga this morning and I finally got to do the full hour while I was reading through emails. It was really funny, actually, getting ready for tonight and everything. You just find a way to fit it all in, right? The best way to get it done is to just schedule the time. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. And how applicable is that to exactly what we're doing right here? So, hope everybody did have a great day, and I'm really excited about tonight's topic because I feel like it's just so appropriate for how busy everybody is. I get emails all the time. I get private Facebook messages and people reaching out just saying, I'm just so busy. I don't know how to fit this in. And I really think that tonight's topic is going to give you some options that you can implement. And honestly, guys, Connie Schneider is really just excellent at this. This is her thing, the art of passive prospecting, which is how do you just, make the most of your connections throughout the day and the different interactions that you have, so that you can turn them into possibilities. By the way, this is the most fun way to build the business because you meet lots of good people and you help a lot of people along the way, and you never know where different relationships are going to take you. So, really excited about tonight's topic. So we will be talking about that art of passive prospecting today and how, some best practices for implementing that. What are some things? Because, when you're talking about prospecting passively with people that you meet throughout your day, you have to make sure that you're doing it in a way that is not socially unacceptable, right? There's a couple of best practices, a couple of things that work best that are responded to in better ways. So we will cover those restaurants, places that you do business, and then we're going to finish off today with a halfway point assessment. And all this really is I want to propose a few questions for you to ask yourself along this process. And I realize that this isn't a 90-day fast track. I do realize that this is a contest, and everybody's out there to win, but in reality, when your business grows, then you win. Whether you win a prize or a title or not, the real reason that any of us started a business was to win at business for ourselves for some specific reason. And so I just want to make sure that I can give you a couple of strategic questions that you can ask yourself to really have a clear idea of where you are in this process, so that the last half of it, the next 6 weeks that we're doing this, that you can make some adjustments for where you find that you're going to need them made, and so that you can continue to do the things that you are doing that are working, that you're excelling at. So it's very, very important in business or in anything that you're trying to get good at, that you're very transparent with yourself. Because honestly, that's the only way to get better, is if you can acknowledge where you're doing well and where you're not doing so well, so that you can make some adjustments. The whole measure, monitor, adjust, and control. Couple of quick reminders. Tonight we have a lot to cover, so just quickly, these webinars are recorded. Successful recordings and PDFs are being uploaded really as early as Tuesday morning almost every week to weBVolumecontest.com by clicking on webinars and support. Please, 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 I still have people that are submitting their numbers in Word form. So if the answer is 0, please don't write the word none. Please just enter the 0. If the answer is 0, please don't enter the letter O. Just make sure that you're entering numbers for things that are asking for a quantity. And the only place that you would use words are for pin levels achieved, and if you have any additional comments at the very end. Facebook is looking great. Everybody's doing awesome. Just keep up the good work, you guys. I can't even tell you that. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll through. The results on this round have been just, they're incredible. I was talking to Jeremy today, and we're looking at these numbers and going, wow, it's so funny because when we first sat down and we were thinking, what can we do to just kind of zap some life into the program? And we said, let's do a contest. And, we said that, and we really did think it was going to work, but we weren't expecting it to work as well as it is working. These numbers are just out of control. 96 website sales. And by the way, I just want to say that there are about 135 people that are still actively participating. And this is different than a fast track, where if you decide to only enter in every other week, we're not kicking anybody off, because this is a contest and everybody has the same amount of of time to earn however many points they can earn. But what I do want to say is this, is our last fast track in the fall, over the course of 12 full weeks, there were about 100 websites that were sold. We are almost at 100 websites sold in week 6. Just 6 weeks of results. I mean, that's almost 50%. That is almost literally 50% more production than what we've done on any other previous fast track. And I just think that you guys should be commended for that. Personally sponsored and product sales are equally as impressive as far as results are concerned. And so I just want to encourage everybody to keep up that great work because, um, it's just something, I mean, it's just really, really special to see that kind of results happening. It's exactly what we were hoping would happen, where people would be really motivated to just try harder, not just to win or to compete against each other, but just to compete against yourself, to be a little bit better than you were last time around. And that's really all you can do. So you can see that last week we had 20 website sales. That's incredible. $22,873 in sale price, generating $16,372 in retail profit. There were also, that's a funny number, $16,732 in product sales, 8 personally sponsored, 29 tickets sold to convention, and 29 WCTs that were attended. That's bringing our total website sales up to 96. That's incredible. Product sales are almost at $200,000 already, 86 personally sponsored. Guys, we're going to have to take out a whole section for the weBVolume people. This is incredible. Keep up the good work. And just please keep in mind, if you are running on this contest and you're putting the work in, you're making the contacts, you're showing the plans, you're completing the website appointments, you're doing the web center owner overviews, whatever it is that you are doing, if you haven't seen the sale pop through or the business partner launch their business yet, please keep in mind that this is very much like planting a garden, right? You plant the seed, you water it, you give it the sunlight, you make sure it's good. You have to take care of it a little while until it's ready to grow. That's how your business grows. This isn't where you own a dollar store and people come in and just half-mindedly buy things for a dollar. Like, these are business relationships that are being forged, and they take time, and the ones that last the longest are the ones where the time is invested. So I want to encourage you that if it's taking some time to nurture that relationship, do the trial run or do the follow-up, that's a good thing. That's the sign of a healthy business relationship that is being formed, one that is built on trust, one that is a solid decision, and that could be a business partner and or a client for life. Please don't be discouraged if you're not seeing the results right away. Keep doing the follow-up. If you didn't attend last week's webinar, we did a webinar on follow-up strategies. Actually, that may have been the week before. The past week was on leveraging the holidays. So if you're going to be attending holiday festivities in the next couple of weeks, there's a ton of holidays coming up in the spring and the summer. I encourage you to watch that, but please, please, please watch the follow-up ones, because this is going to come down to whether or not you stick with it. And it's going to come down to whether or not you stick with it, and it's going to come down to whether or not you're consistent with your follow-up. So continue to do the work, and you guys are going to see some even more great results. So let's talk about passive prospecting, right? So here's what it comes down to. We all built a names list. We also did 4 or 5 webinars on expanding that names list and working in different pools of people, right? Working in familiar industries, or working in with organizations or NPOs, or in the restaurants, or just picking an industry and firing through that. We talked about all kinds of ways that you could expand your network. And here's the deal. You still want to do that. You still want to have an intentional 15 minutes a day where you're actively prospecting people that are on your possibilities list. That's very important that you're consistent with that, and that what I'm talking about right now, that you're not doing that just instead of. What I'm talking about now is meant to be something you do in addition to your intentional prospecting, because as business owners, committing 15 minutes a day to your personal business to grow it is such a minute, contribution to your own life, to your own business that you own. But again, you don't want to throw the success of your business only into the hands of passively prospecting throughout your day when it's convenient, or when a possibility presents itself. That's going to make growing your business probably take a lot longer. So I'm talking about how you can definitely maximize the time that you're spending outside of your intentional prospecting. So the concept is this: as you go about your day, different opportunities will present themselves. And it happens all the time. I'll share some examples with you a little bit later, just from my day to day, even. But just think about, when you're at work or you're working out, or if you're doing, you're out at a restaurant eating and it's just a place that you do business, or if you're dropping off your dry cleaning, or if you're hanging out with friends or family, or just like tonight, I was at my youngest son had a baseball practice, and I'm sitting there talking to parents, and you get into conversations with people, but are you prepared for what kinds of possibilities are going to present themselves? And I'm telling you flat out, like, if you're not prepared for this, well, then you may not have the kinds of conversations that you go back home and you go, oh, I wish I had said this, or I wish I had asked that. And you miss some really, really good opportunities. You leave some good opportunities on the table. And it comes down to whether or not you're prepared for what you want to say, or how you would recommend information. If somebody sat down in front of you right now and said, I want more information, what would you say? Do you feel confident enough in your answer that you wouldn't stumble upon what would come out of your mouth? And that's a really important question to ask yourself. Because a lot of the prospecting that we do is very much on purpose, where we pick up the phone and we know exactly what we're going to say. We've done some candidate research, and we're very prepared with good questions, or we're Facebooking or texting, and there's some time built in there for response. But when you're talking about passive prospecting, your belief and your backbone have to be really secure. They have to be completely in place so that you can have comfortable conversations with people, and that you can really maximize these relationships and add some stuff to the funnel here. So just keep that in mind. The first step is to listen, right? So the best way to solve a problem for someone is to understand what the problem is in the first place. So this is really important. Too often, I think, in our industry, or in sales even, people, when they're out around their friends or family or colleagues or other parents or whatever it is, they verbally vomit on their people, and they try to sell them on something, and it's overwhelming, and people just don't like that. So, the better thing is to take the time, kind of like what we were just talking about when we were discussing the results, to take the time to do it right. How do you think you would feel if someone was trying to offer you a solution and you haven't even stated that you have a problem yet? Right? It doesn't translate well. So keep that in mind when you're talking to your friends and family and your colleagues and people in your life. So the first step is to just, open the door for certain conversations to even occur. And it starts with some really basic social stuff. But you want to ask the social stuff that's going to lead to kinds of questions that you want to ask. So if somebody has a business, or somebody is working for a small business or whatever, that's great. You could be a little bit more prepared. But some basic socially acceptable questions to talk to people are, hey, how's work been? How have you been? How's your family been? How has business been? Right? There's nothing weird, there's nothing uncomfortable or unnatural about these questions. And it gets people thinking, talking A, about themselves, and B, talking about whatever line of work or business they are in. And both of those two things are very important. When you ask these questions, it also opens the door for them to say things that are going well, in addition to things that are not going well, where they can expose some pain. They can expose some situations where things are maybe not as great as they'd like to, or whatever. Please keep in mind, if you ask somebody how's work been, or how's business been, or hey, what do you do? Right? I actually asked that to a bunch of people today because it was the first baseball practice. So, I'm talking to people, how are you? Great to meet you. Which one's your son? Yep, mine's Ethan. He's over there dancing. My son's a gymnast, so he likes to dance in the baseball field. It's awesome. We're not expecting a baseball career for him. We're more expecting Newsies on Broadway, but that's fine. Anyway, so I very proudly pointed him out, and and we're having all this. So what do you guys do? What do you do? Do you work in town? Do you whatever? You just start asking and getting to know people. Now, if you are dealing with people that you already know, you skip all that stuff and you just go right to how's work been, right? But the important thing is to ask questions that open the door for them to talk about themselves. And I'm going to say that one more time. The idea is not for you to talk about yourself and hug the conversation and talk about how great you are and what a great opportunity you have for them and blah, 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 blah. That's not what this is about. you want them to talk about themselves more than anything, because the more, I mean, really, honestly, guys, the one that talks next loses. So, you ask the question and then you be quiet. And that's actually what the next slide says. Okay, so now the key is to hush and let people speak. This is the hardest part. When you ask somebody something and they start to talk, sometimes we get really excited and we think that we need to offer an appointment or offer to show them the plan or something like really, really early on. But if you just let them talk a little bit more, they can give you more reasons to set a solid appointment versus just one reason. So, and not to mention, if you let them talk, they feel important. So I just wanted to run down a couple of really important bullet points to keep in mind when you're talking to people, because I know this seems very obvious, but these are things that we all need to work on. Number one, when you ask somebody how they're doing or how's work been going, you need to fully engage in what they say when they respond to you, and you need to make eye contact. There is nothing worse than when somebody asks you a question and you start to talk and you're excited to give a response and you can just tell that the other person is not listening. I think that's the rudest thing, and it makes me feel really unimportant and really like uninterested in continuing the conversation. I've had it happen so many times where people ask me how I've been, and I'll try to give a quick response, and I literally feel them like staring through my forehead into outer space, and I'm like, why am I even talking right now? You're not listening. So just be aware that sometimes after a long day of work, when you're exhausted or if you're nervous about something or whatever, it is difficult to fully engage, but it's really, really important. People can tell when you're not genuinely interested in what they have to say, and they can tell when you're not even listening to what they have to say. So some things that you can do to keep yourself engaged is to make sure you're making eye contact. I mean, you don't want to be a freak and just stare at people inappropriately, but eye contact is a lost art, and I highly recommend it. You want to smile. I mean, honestly, don't I know it sounds silly, but just smile when you talk, be pleasant to be around. Avoid thinking about what you're going to say next. This is probably the biggest mistake that most people in sales make and most people in our industry make. We're so nervous about what the next thing that we need to say is that we can't hear what our candidate is talking about. And it's lost opportunities. It's lost information that we could be using to tie up a solid appointment. So make sure you're not thinking about what you're going to say. That's not important. What's more important is what are they saying to you and how can you engage in that. Avoid disruptions. Don't whip out your phone. Don't text. Don't think about other things. Um, I don't know if you've ever talked to somebody while they're texting. It's super, super rude, And again, these are just things that these are things that in 2014 we actually have to talk about, because there are so many distractions, and I don't think people intend to be rude when they are, going through this kind of stuff, but it is rude. So we just have to work harder, be genuinely interested. And by the way, let them finish their thought. Try really, really hard not to interrupt people when they're in the middle of a thought. First of all, it makes them feel unimportant. And second of all, they may not have even gotten to their point yet, right? They may want to spill some more. And if you cut them off, you don't allow them to do that, then again, you're leaving information on the table that you could be using to tie up an appointment. Once they've finished, I recommend empathizing at some point. If they're complaining about something, you can say, I totally know what you mean. I've been through that, or my friend just went through that. You can empathize with somebody's situation without one upping them. And you know what I mean? So you don't want to, every time they say something, say, oh, yeah, but my story is way worse. Or, oh, yeah, but my dinner is way better. You know what I mean? You know exactly what I mean by a one upper. But in any case, just keep in mind that, in this day and age, there's a ton of factors that are working against us. And when we just want to have normal face to face conversations, and it's so important to be good at that. It's where trust is gained. It's the building block of a good relationship. And so just make sure that you're aware of these things, and that if you are easily distracted, that you're doing things to keep yourself from being distracted. If you are the kind of person that is always fidgeting on their phone, maybe just put it in your pocket or leave it in your car, or do something so that you're not tempted to whip it out and kind of, thumb through whatever you want to thumb through. Just understand that when you're out passively prospecting, your interpersonal skills, your ability to communicate, your ability to listen, is going to really be the deciding factor for success for you, of whether or not you can successfully passively prospect. So the next thing is to now ask a couple of more questions. So you started off by asking some, personal questions that were somewhat business related, like how's work, how's the family, how's business been? Those kinds of things. You've been listening to their response, and at this point, you want to transition a little bit along. So if somebody said, "Oh my gosh, business has been so slow," then you might want to say something like, "Oh man, when did it change? I mean, has it been slow for a while?" Another good question is, what are you doing about that? Like, or have you tried anything new recently to try and, pick business back up? Have you been doing any advertising? Do you guys have a website? So I hope these kinds of questions make sense. But if business is slow, the next response needs to not be, well, maybe a website would make a big difference. If you want, I can get you an appointment. You haven't gotten enough information to schedule a qualified appointment yet. You need to ask just a few more questions so that you can identify a few more specific needs, so that when they do schedule an appointment, they have some skin in the game, right? Because if you said to them, what are you doing to change that? And they said, well, we've tried Valpak. Well, we've tried newspaper. Well, we've tried radio, and none of that's been working. But they are doing social media. They do have and then you ask them, you have a website, and they said, we do. It's not updated. And you said, well, who updates your website? And then they say, we don't have anybody to update our website. That's why it's so out of date. You're at this point, you've identified like 3 or 4 points of interest where then when you go to schedule an appointment, they're going to be really excited about the appointment. If you miss all of that, and if they just say business is slow and you skip to scheduling an appointment, you don't have all those specific things that you can use to tie up the appointment. You're just scheduling an appointment, and it's sort of like shooting in the dark. You're hoping that, the appointment is even going to solve their problems. How do you know it will? You don't, because you don't have any specifics yet. You can also keep a couple of the 15-minute consultation questions on hand. Try to memorize a couple of them. Ask them a couple of specific questions about their current online marketing strategy if you want to. Just have some of these kinds of questions in your back pocket so that you can get them talking. And then again, just like before, you want to give them enough time to respond and share responses with you about these kinds of things so that you can get a nice qualified appointment. Now, on the contrary, if they say business has been booming or business is great, then your next response is to be happy for them, like a normal person, right? Oh, wow, that's really awesome. Gosh, that's, I don't hear that a lot these days. When did things really pick up for you guys? Um, are you guys doing any advertising? Do you guys have a website? And you're not asking if they have a website so that you can help pick up business for them. They just said business is booming, right? So maybe your next logical question is your website helping you to manage your growth? Is your website helping, with your customer service? Is your website, helping you to interact with the current customers that you have to save you time? Whatever it is, you can still have these conversations about a website with somebody whose business is doing well. Because websites don't only are not only in existence to attract new customers. Yes, they will do that. But really, a good website solution is going to help the business owner to decrease their expenses, increase their revenues, and increase their customers' satisfaction. So, when people tell me their business is doing really well, the customer satisfaction angle is the angle that I take. It's just really important that you understand what angle you're going to go with, and that again, you're not going at them with a statement, but rather with some questions to get them to talk about how their current situation is helping with whatever it is that the goal is, whether it's increasing revenues or increasing customer satisfaction. So now that you've asked, a bunch of questions, you've identified some specific needs, you can go ahead and make a recommendation. Now, remember that recommendation is not really valuable to the business owner unless it's based on a real issue. So again, if you skip asking these questions and just kind of engaging and interacting with people, you're scheduling a website appointment that's not really based on anything. It's not really founded on anything secure or solid. And, that can be a little bit disappointing when they show up for the appointment and they're not sure what to expect. And so they don't take all the information in properly. They're not as open to receiving information because they're not really sure what they're on the call for at all. So this is why it's really important to ask these questions, so that when you do go ahead and engage in this recommendation stage, now that recommendation is built on something solid. It's built on some very specific needs that were, shared with you that you're going to offer a solution for, which is an appointment. So here's an example of some verbiage. I hear that a lot these days, and I found that many business owners are so overwhelmed with everything they need to put in place for their website to really support. And when I wrote XYZ, it was, whatever it is that they shared with you. So, if it's like, oh, it's just so overwhelming, businesses that want to leverage the internet to gain new customers, they're overwhelmed. They just don't know, all the different things they have to put in place so that they can find the actual customers. Like there's all these solutions to put up a website, but do any of them actually work to gain customers? So at that point, all I've done was I've empathized with their problem, right? I said, I hear that a lot these days. I've empathized, meaning I know exactly what you're saying. I totally feel you. I've been there. My friends have been there. I've worked with some people that have been there. And I found that many business owners are blah, 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 blah. So you say feel, felt, found. So I feel that, I felt it, and I found that this could help. All right, so now at this point, you go ahead and recommend the appointment. And simple sales or the networking approach works perfectly fine here. So after you've asked some questions and you've identified some needs and you do that, I feel that, I felt that, and I found that businesses, blah, 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 blah. If you're using simple sales, you could just say, hey, I actually work with a great company. They have an entire division that helps businesses like yours. If you want, I could totally get you an appointment with one of our guys, where they could share a little bit about the solution and answer some questions for you and maybe make it a little bit easier for you to achieve whatever it was that they were talking about. And that's the simple sales. So you can do this at a baseball field. You could do this anywhere. It's so simple. Now, if you're doing a networking approach, all you would say is, I don't know if you knew this or not, but I actually own a web development company and we work with businesses like yours to leverage the internet. And if you want, I'd love to, I could totally set up an appointment with you and we could walk you through how we might be able to make this simpler for you. Now, either way, you don't get into a conversation about features and benefits. When you're passively prospecting, you generally don't have time to do that anyway, which is good. And you can always blame it on time. But you never start getting into conversations about features and benefits, because once you do that, you give them just enough information to form an uneducated opinion on whether or not they want to go with the service. So you want to make sure that you're not selling yourself short by having these discussions. And if they keep pushing, that's awesome. It's a classic buying sign. It means they're ready for more information. And that's what you need to be selling, is information, appointments. That's easy. That's normal. By the way, that's socially acceptable, right? If you just reduce the process of selling website appointments to listen, question, recommend, the system is way more fun and it's way more natural because it's extremely easy to apply in your everyday activities. It's easy because this is how people talk all the time. There's nothing new to learn. There's no process to learn. There's no new protocol that you have to master. It's simple. This is just how people interact. Just today, I did schedule a website appointment with a woman that I met through a friend using this. I ran into somebody at the coffee shop and it happened to be someone that I had met through somebody else. I was like, what? I totally recognize your face, but I can't remember, can't put the name to it. And we started talking and it's the same thing. And I just said, how's work been? Blah, 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 blah. And it was the same passive prospecting. I ran into somebody, I got them talking a little bit, and it turns out that they were unhappy with their current website and I scheduled an appointment. Simple, right? And then at the same time, like an hour later, I was sitting in an appointment for with my mortgage company. We're looking at some different homes and different houses that we want to consider. And Jim starts talking about how annoyed he was with his lawn. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, I got these like little yellow patches that like will not turn green. And I went to Valley Green and Hadley and they sell like the right stuff versus some of these other stores that sell you cheaper stuff that doesn't quite work. And And he's like, it's going to cost me like $400. It's crazy. And I said, Jim, listen, it sounds like you're like really, really frustrated. And I used to be frustrated too. One of my friends just actually started a lawn care business. They're so awesome. It's their first year in business, but they've been doing this for 15 years. And I know for a fact that he could probably give you a quote that's comparable, if not less expensive than what you just said you were going to spend on product. If you want, I can have him give you a call, or I could give you his phone number. And Jim was like, really? So, and I said, yeah. I said, it's so funny because I was just at the home show with them and I was watching them quote people. I had no idea it was as affordable as it was. And he was like, oh my God, I would totally love that. So it's like, I'm not even in business for this guy. I don't benefit from scheduling the appointment. I just, as a good human being, I heard Jim talking about an issue. I happen to have a good recommendation, so I share it. This is how people share referrals all day long. And if you could literally simplify the process to like that basic for yourself, you will schedule appointments like it was your job, because it's so easy and it's so natural that people respond well to it. And just keep that in mind, guys. We've done a lot of training on communication skills over the past 6 weeks. And the more natural and the more comfortable you can feel in your own skin, the more comfortable you're going to make your prospect feel, which is going to result in more appointments and more quality appointments. So reduce the process, guys. Reduce it to listening and questioning and recommending. And don't make it more complicated than that. You don't have to send live website samples. You don't have to get testimonials. You're not doing that. Remember, you're just selling information. Keep it that simple. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just very, very quickly go through this. So you're going to take an assessment of yourself. I want you to ask yourself, do you belong in category 1 right now or category 2? No category is better than the other. It's just, again, it's about being transparent, and it's about, asking yourselves the right kinds of questions so that you can be on target. And I'm not going to go through this a lot because I'm going to put this on Facebook right away so that you guys can ask yourselves these questions and do this, in real time and take your time. So category 1 would be folks on the contest that have been building consistency. They're seeing consistently. They're seeing results. They're making quality contacts and follow-ups. They're adding to their names list constantly. They're plugging in every single week, and they're putting in effort every single day to work toward their goals. These are people that are just on track. Category 2 may have had a slower start than maybe what you intended. They had really good intentions, but trouble with scheduling. Most of their contacts are first-time contacts. They're cultivating relationships, and they're having trouble maybe moving contacts to results. So category 2 is I had a slower start. Category 1 is I'm just building consistently. So if you're in category 1, you've been building consistently, I want you to continue to do that. It's really simple. Keep plugging into everything. Continue to expand your names list. Get creative. Ask for referrals. Create lists of web appointments that didn't end in a sale and follow up. Same thing for the plan. Follow up on all your closed activities. Step on the gas and just kick yourself up a notch. Challenge yourself to be a little bit better. Keep this cycle moving and keep it in sync. If you're in category 2, you're going to start to plug in every week. If it's inconvenient, I want you to allow yourself to be inconvenienced. Success is inconvenient, you guys. So if Monday night doesn't work, and for a reason that is unavoidable, then please, please, please make it a priority to watch the webinar on Tuesday afternoon. Plug in, plug in, plug in. If you want results, don't skip calls, don't skip your daily activities, don't skip your weekly activities. Brush your teeth once a day or 4 hours per month, which more effective. Exercise once a day or 4 hours per month. Maybe do some call workshops. Do things like identifying why you're doing this at all so that the inconvenience becomes a reason and a motivation for you to do the work that you need to do and that you intend to do. Because everybody that's on this is demonstrated that they're on this with good intentions. Now I want you to actualize your intentions with activities so that you get to enjoy the results that you want. And then in addition to that, I want you to check your numbers. Are you consistent? Is there consistency positive or a negative consistency? Are your numbers in alignment with the goals that you set for yourself? Where can you personally improve? Then I want you to check the quality of your contacts. Are they cultivating contacts? Are they moving them along the evaluation? Are you following up? Are you in your own way? Are you asking for the appointment, the sale, or to see the plan? Have you followed up with your people? Are you making good one-on-one contacts? Are you mass emailing just to simply fill out an activity report? Check the quality of those contacts. Check your emotions. Are you afraid to fail? Are you afraid to succeed? Are you afraid to confirm appointments? Who cares, right? The eyes of others are our prisons, their thoughts are our cages. Virginia Woolf. I absolutely love, love, love that quote. You need to check your emotions because a lot of times we are the ones in our own way. It's nothing else. Commit to the small steps. Stop focusing on the result and do the small steps. When you have website appointments, don't stop working and throw all your eggs in one basket, but rather keep that cycle growing and healthy for consistent growth. Don't talk to one person 5 times in a week and then count that as your prospecting for the week. That's not helpful for your growth. Yeah, it counts as 5 contacts, and technically you could submit it as 5, and I'm not going to judge you either way. But if we're going to be transparent and you want your business to really grow, then check the quality of the contacts you're making. Don't start over and over again, right? Where you're talking to the same people, you're working them, and then it works out or it doesn't, and then you got to start over again in 4 weeks. Cumulative action equals confidence, and confidence equals consistency, and consistency equals success. So, guys, I'm going to put this PDF on Facebook in literally like 2 minutes, and you guys can take this assessment for yourselves, and be very honest with yourself, and then I want you to go ahead and plug into whichever action plan it is that you guys need to give to yourself. Guys, make it a great week. If you have any questions, please go ahead and post it on the Facebook group. I have to actually hop on a webinar with Taiwan right now, but please, please, please ask your questions, take the assessment, and do your best. You guys are incredible. This group of people are just, I mean, it's unparalleled. It's unprecedented. Keep up the good work.